Hi, Lou Mugin here at the Dallas Fantasy Fair. With us for this segment is Archie Goodwin, qualifies as great comic book writer and as a very great person. How are you doing this afternoon, Archie?
I'm doing fine, Lou. Enjoying the Dallas Fantasy Fair and soaking up some of that wonderful Dallas atmosphere.
You don't get very much of that in New York. It's too thick for that.
Well, it is that.
Okay, we want to do a bit of history here, Archie, but first I want you to tell me what the heck you're doing most recently, currently in comic books, so you'll inform both me and all the people out there.
Okay, currently in comics, I'm editor of DC's Legends of the Dark Knight. I'm editing a veritable raft of graphic novels and limited series, the first of which will be a book called The Griffin, which is by Dan Votto and Norman Felkley. It is a interesting new take on superheroes. That'll be like a 6-issue prestige book. I'm doing a collection of the Generation Zero material that brilliant artist named Pepe Moreno and I did for Epic Illustrated. It's being collected as a graphic novel for the first time. I'm also writing a Batman graphic novel with Scott Hampton, who's a terrific young painter, and this will be a fairly serious mystery that also deals with child abuse, and that'll be out sometime next year. So all that is keeping me off the streets.
Child abuse, like reading your competitors' books.
Exactly. I'm falling way behind on my rival reading.
Okay. Now we're going to jump way back and do history.
Maybe I'll get younger.
Right. God, I hope I do like this. But my beard will recede. No, the first things I know of coming from you, of course, were Hermit, short tale, which you did with Al Williamson, am I right? In 63.
My God, you are going back in history.
Right.
That's the first story I ever sold. I sold that through Al Williamson when I was still a student in art school, learning that I could write a lot better than I could draw. And I met Al Williamson in art school. He liked my writing, suggested I do that. That was my start, and for a first story to have Reed Crandall penciled it, and Al Williamson did the inking. So from the very beginning, I've had artists making me look good. It hasn't changed much.
And the script and words making them look good also, I might add. But this was when you were still in art school. Had you sold, say, your stories to Ellery Queen, am I right, on this thing of detective stories around that time, or am I wrong?
This would have been sometime after that.
Okay.
After art school, I worked for Red Book magazine. I got drafted, and after I got out of the Army, I sold that story to Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine.
It's a nice thing to be drafted when we're not in a war, isn't it?
It's the best thing of all. Of course, I did serve during the Cuban Missile Crisis, hiding under a desk, hoping nothing flew overhead.
That's how you were taught to avoid atomic bombs, right then. You hid your head under a desk and put it between your legs or something like that. And protect you from atomic
and kiss something goodbye.
Something goodbye, yes, on this thing. Moving forward now to the great year of 1964-65, somewhere in there, James Warren starts Creepy and Eerie. At least I think he starts it. Tell me the story of how this came about, how we were yanked from the primordial ILM to become the head editor-writer for that golden period.
I knew someone. No, basically, I owe it all to Al Williamson again. I wouldn't have any career without Al Williamson. He was approached by Warren because they wanted to start a line of books that would kind of recreate the spirit of the original EC horror comics, but do them as black and white magazines. Al was introduced to the editor. Al suggested a lot of artists that he knew from EC, and then, as always, he suggested me as writer. They liked the scripts I did for them, so I began writing most of the stories. With about the third issue, the original editor was fired.
Russ Jones.
Right. And because I knew the artist, because I'd had some magazine experience, because I was writing most of the stories, and because I was there, I was hired as editor. And that's how I became editor, and because I was working with some of the best artists that have ever worked in comics, like Al, Angelo Torres, Reed Crandall, Alex Toth.
Johnny Craig?
Yeah, Johnny Craig. It kind of really helped my reputation as a writer and an editor, And I was able to go from Warren to working for Marvel and then DC, and then I've batted all around the place since then.
Mm-hmm. Okay, some of the specific stories in there flashed through my mind while we were talking about this. In particular, Steve Ditko's very moody, eerie work. That's also the scariest graphic work I've seen in comics, including people like Graham Ingalls and some of the others. What do you feel about Steve's work on your stories?
Well, I think it's some of the best work Steve did outside of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
I'd say it stacks up easily as well as those.
Right. Through Wally Wood, I learned that Steve had quit Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and was looking for work, so I called him up. I knew he had done like The Mysterious Traveler for Charlton and done a raft of fantasy and horror stories for Atlas in the pre-Marvel days. So I talked to him about doing something for Warren. He mentioned that he'd like to do the work in wash since it was a black and white book. I had no idea Steve could handle wash. And he was able to do just brilliant ink wash, lovely blacks, terrific moody grays.
Including one story in Out of Beast, which is all in wash. I remember that one.
Yeah, there's
no hard lines at all. Like that.
Yeah, he did. Well, I think he managed to do several that way, but he had several styles. He would change styles, of course, depending on the story itself.